Welcome to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv, where we're here to discuss the fantastic and fabulous FileMaker platform. My name is Margaret. I am here with the wonderful Calvin Moseman today to discuss, as always, cool things in the FileMaker platform. Real quick reminder, we stream on three platforms. We stream on YouTube, we stream on Discord, and we stream on Twitch. I follow the conversations for all of these. Please talk to us. Please ask us questions. Please interact. We love doing that with you guys. We love having you guys ask questions. We're here to help, help the developer community improve and to share information between us and everyone come out better for the other side, which would be great. Real quick, if you're curious about our schedule, because we do this 5 days a week, we've got Calvin today with searches about find mode in FileMaker, which will be interesting. Tuesday is going to be a news recap. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all Nick days. It's going to be the ASCII table, last day of the ASCII table series on Wednesday, and then the first 2 days of the code and character functions in FileMaker are Thursday and Friday, which should be very interesting. Monday is an old thing that people run into sometimes, upgrading from FP5 and FP7 FileMaker files with Jacob Taylor. Should you have customers or encounter people who have not quite made the jump to FMP12 yet. So that'll be interesting for that. Real quick, if you'd like to support the channel, because we greatly appreciate it, we have our Learning FileMaker annual subscriptions. These are the complete Learning FileMaker bundles and the Learning FileMaker Video Only Training bundle. Both are fantastic. One actually comes with FileMaker. Both are a great deal. It's 100 plus hours of video content by some really fantastic content creators. Richard is a great trainer. Nick's a great trainer. Calvin, I believe, shows up in there. Jacob Taylor, they're all fantastic, and they all know their stuff really well. And basically, if you want a really thorough understanding of pretty much all of FileMaker's platforms, that's the way to do it. If you've already bought it, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Or if you just buy it to support us, we also appreciate that as well. It helps keep us doing this sort of thing, which was great. Okay, cool. Now that we've done all the wonderful introductions, what are we doing today, Calvin? What are we doing?
So today we're looking at performing finds in FileMaker without requiring the user to go into find mode. So saying without find mode is a little deceptive because in the script we're going to use, we will go into find mode. But sometimes users have a need to perform a find or to do a search that is beyond their skill set of entering find mode and putting in a request to find this, putting in another request to omit something. For a client I had, I walked them through how to perform a complicated find one time, and they said, this is great. And then the next day they said, can you show me that again? I put a video together and sent it to them, and then they said, well, one of our users here can't figure it out. So we ended up building a dialogue to walk them through setting up the find. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to implement it into a file if we have some time. So let's switch to my screen. So here I have a bunch of sample data in just a basic list view for this demo. And this, if we look at the table here, this is pulled straight from FM starting point. So I'm actually curious, can people say whether they're using, give me a thumbs up if they're using FM starting point as the basis of their app. But if you are, all the fields that this is based on is FM starting point. So you should be able to just copy and paste this right into FM starting point and it should work. So let's go through this. So here we have how we would normally do a find. We would go into find mode, or we'd select find in the toolbar, and you might go in here and select, you want to see all the active people, and that was pretty straightforward, but it required us knowing how to go into find mode, required that we know we are in find mode right now, and then type in something here and then perform that find. And I wonder if anyone else has run into this. Does anyone else run into users thinking they're in find mode and then typing over an existing record and losing data? Has that ever happened to anybody else? There was one client we had where the first record in their app was always a mess because the people consistently thought they were in find mode and they weren't.
We got a lot of immediate yeses.
Yes.
And that Ken has also done that himself.
Yeah, so this helps users who might not be as savvy with going into find mode to perform finds and keep it really friendly. So I've got this filter pop over right here. And I've got, you can put in a date here. All the dates are pretty old in this sample data set. So I'm going to go from the beginning of April 2018. And I'll say the end date is the end of April 2018. And maybe I only want to see the accounts that are still active. I'll say apply. And here's a list of records. Now we were doing a search on a date. This happened to be the creation date. And we immediately got our results for the active. But I also have this option here to hide results. So maybe we want to see all of the accounts, but we don't want to see, let's sort by the account and see what different accounts we have here. We don't have anything that's duplicated. So let's say we want to hide one of these things. Let's say we want to hide the Nido Valley. I'll put that in the account to hide it and say apply. And now I don't have that Nido Valley. So we're right here. We're doing a find at the top and we're doing an omit at the bottom. And we could also do this, say instead of saying find active, we could say hide inactive. And we're going to get that same result. But this ability to find results and hide results gives a lot of power to the user without having to teach them how to go into find mode, enter their first find of wanting to find everything that's active, then create new request and hide everything that they don't want to see. And also, we got a date range in there that it's a little more complicated for people to find out. If we go ahead and let's go back to browse mode and go back to our filter, clear these out, and I'm going to apply this. And now perform to find, we have our 27 records. Now I'm going to select Command R. If you haven't used Command R before, that gives you a look at what your last find was, your last, and you can adjust that last find request or change or perform it again. And you'll see that we actually found a date range here where we use that those two date fields to create a date range. If we only have one date in here and we say apply, I'll select Command R again. We're actually finding everything before that because we selected an end date. Now if I enter the let's go back to browse mode. If I select this as the start date, then it will find everything after that date. If you want to find only one day, you'll put in the same date for the start and end and apply, and there's only one record. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point, or are we ready to look under the hood?
Nope. No questions at the moment.
Okay. So the script is pretty straightforward. So we've got a couple clear scripts for clearing the global fields that we are using to filter. And this is the script that performs the find. And we'll see here, I just want to show you in our relationships, we only have two tables. And two table occurrences, these aren't related. We've got our filter table, which is a bunch of global fields, so they don't need to be related. And then we have our table that I imported from FM starting point. So let's go back over here to our script and kind of walk through this. I start off with an error capture to make sure that there's a find request, that there are data in some of the global fields. If there's nothing in there, then it will exit. And you'll notice if there is nothing in here, then I'm going to select this clear button to clear everything out. If it's empty, if there's no find criteria, then my apply button doesn't work and it is grayed out. So it's an inactive button, and the clear button is just hidden when it's not available. Then we go to our script settings, and here with we enter find mode. And for most of these, we just set the field with that global field. When you're in find mode, the global field, because it's global, continues to have the value that was set in it. So we can just say, set the field in find mode with the global field value. The only exception where I'm using a variable is in the date, setting the date. And here we can look at this calculation. We're putting together a calculation where we make sure that the find criteria makes sense. So here is a case statement here, and we're checking if either is empty, then there's no result. If one is empty, then we're going to, if the start date is empty and the end date is not empty, we're going to find everything earlier than the end date, and vice versa for the start date. If they equal the same thing, we'll just pass the start date. And then here we do a little checking to make sure that the start comes before the end. And if somebody puts it in wrong, we switch it around. So that's really helpful with somebody who might have fat fingers and puts in something like April, or actually let's do 2018. Okay. And go back to 2018. So here we're going to perform a find, and the start date is before the end date. I apply that, and let's Command R to see what it did. It realized that the end date was before the start date and switched them around to make sure that it made sense. So it has a little bit of hand holding there to help the user. And then that is all saved in the date variable and for that find. Now, once we're done setting that find request, we create multiple omit requests. And for each data point, we omit that data point that we want to hide. And that's so that if when we say omit, usually you want each of those items to be omitted. And so this way, and if we said it has to meet all those criteria, I guess in some cases that might be the case, but usually you would want each of those items omitted. So we're creating a new find request for each data point that we want omitted. Then we perform the find. If there's an error, we go back to the filter popover that where the find is created to so the person can user can modify that find request. So do we have any questions up to this point? We've kind of walked through this pretty fast, but it's for the most part, it's pretty straightforward.
Just people saying they're excited to learn a non-perform find solution, and that one person in YouTube recently learned this trick, and they love it. It's a great trick. So,
great.
Otherwise,
great. So so we looked at how this is working, and we kind of showed how it works. So let's go ahead and maybe add another. Say this is, you have this app and you want, or you add this to your app and you want to add another filter option. So I'm going to say we don't have category in here. Let's go ahead and add category. So what I'm going to do here is copy this just by holding Option Shift, and that will duplicate it and keep it in line. I think that's where we want it. I'm just going to rename this as category. And let's go ahead and create a new field. We'll duplicate this and call it, oops. I'm sorry, this is find category. We'll change that. We'll duplicate again and say hide, change. Okay, so we got the two new fields. We'll say okay. The first one was find category. And here, the hiding feature on this is going to be, instead of find status, we want find category. And let's go ahead and duplicate this down here. So we both have both the option of finding and hiding a given category. We'll say instead of find, we'll say hide. And the hide, you can think, I say hide because that's a little more obvious for a basic user, but it's the same as you would think omit. And let's change our label here as well. All right, now the way that this clear button is working is using a object name and a script parameter to clear a given field. And the reason we're doing that is just it makes the script really simple, and it also ends the user in that field. We don't have to say set field to be blank and then go to that field and have it all spelled out and have a bunch of if this is selected, do this. So here it's just real straightforward. Let's go ahead and we'll copy that and put it as for the field name here. And here we'll do the same thing, but instead of filter, we'll say hide. And we'll set up the same button to do the same thing. There we go. Okay, so now we have the layout objects working here. And if I select a category, oh, but you know what? We don't have, with this drop-down list isn't really matching. So this is one of the really cool, important parts of this, or one of the really helpful parts. You'll notice when I say account, I have this drop-down list that pops up. Now, there's a lot of accounts, so it doesn't all show up in here. But if I start typing, so you'll see I can't scroll beyond the L. But if I start typing an M, it's going to auto-complete. So this helps people when they're doing a search for something. They probably don't remember if this company that ends with an Inc. is incorporated spelled out? Is it Inc. period? How is that in the app? This saves us the problem of having to remember what's in the app and auto completes for us. I'll go ahead and say apply, and we've got our list. So that's this is generated from a dynamic value list. So we want to do the same thing with the categories. And so let's go ahead and highlight both of those. And we're going to call this, we're going to duplicate this one. And instead of filter status, we're filtering the category. And let's just select category. There we go. And so now, not only do they have an option to filter by the category, they've got a list of all of the options that are available in the category. So now that we have our layout objects working here, and you know one thing that's missing is the tab order. So you do want to get the tab order working, but we will skip over that for now. Let's go ahead and update the script to get that working for us to add that category. We simply just select category, whatever field it was we wanted to filter, and our new find category filter field. We'll save that, and now I'm just going to duplicate this final if statement, and instead of hide status, we're going to say hide category. And again, that's the value that we're setting, and we're going to the category field there. So now we can go ahead and both of these will be working. So let's go ahead and clear out this data that we don't need. And we'll say, let's find all the hot prospects. Now, one thing we'll notice is that we're running into an issue because we have that error capture at the beginning here. And because we're not trapping to make sure that the category has a value in it. So let's go ahead and add that in there. We'll say filter, and then the category, and we'll do that down here as well. And you'll notice that I'm putting these in alphabetical order just to make things a little easier to find later on. And now I'll copy this if calculation, and put it as my hide condition for the clear button and my conditional formatting condition for the apply button. So let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. So now we have all the hot prospects, but you'll notice we don't have any, this is active and inactive. So let's say we want to hide all the inactive ones. I'll say apply, and there we have all of the active ones and inactive. Now you'll notice we've got one that's empty, and that's because instead of saying find active, we said hide inactive. So this can give us a little different result than what you might find saying find active. Maybe we want to know which ones are empty. And you can also use find operators in this. So you might put a little note explaining what the operators are. So right now I'm going to put the equals, which we would know with our operators mean that it's going to find everything that is empty. I'll say apply, and there's our empty status. And you can also say, now at this point we're looking at a contact list. So you would expect that all of the contacts would be unique. You wouldn't want duplicate contacts in this scenario. So you probably wouldn't put a contact search in this kind of way. So I'm going to put an exclamation point to find if there's any duplicates. And sure enough, we've got a couple duplicates, and in a couple, I think in both cases, one, the contact has an active and an inactive record. So maybe we need to have those merged into a single record. So we just saw how to add a new field to the search options and how we can use operators. Do we have any questions about these?
How would you filter multi-selection and value lists? Loop over the selections.
How would you filter multiple selections in a value list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you could do, you could do a loop on that. And if you had a checkbox set as a value list and you had multiple selections, then we could put a loop in here that would loop over each one and exit when the selections are empty, and that would get you. And for each loop, it would need to create a new find request. But yeah, you could do something like that. Let's put it to a vote. Do we want to try the loop, or do we want to implement this in FM starting point?
Which one do you guys like to do? See it implemented in. He said CJ Berlin has said he's done that before, but it's very slow.
Doing the loop?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a loop with a find, or is it creating find requests in the loop? I don't think creating multiple find requests would be slow, but if you're performing multiple finds in a loop
with a find.
Slow. Yeah, I wouldn't do it that way. So let's go ahead and try this out. So in this case, let's go ahead and have we move this over and put a new field on here. And we're going to call this one category, or we want to find the category though. Say find category. And let's say we're finding here. And this is going to be a checkbox set from, and we're finding category. So we only have two options in here. We'll add some more. So there's two find options. And so let's say we have both of these checked and we want to perform this find. What I think we would do is say if so I think it would be value count on, and in this case, just to make things a little simpler, I'm going to use a variable instead of just setting the global field. It's just easier to reference. So let's go ahead and say filter category. And so if this isn't empty, value count on the, so the value count on the category equals 1, we will do the normal search, else, and you'd want to comment this out and explain what's going on, or else nobody's going to know why there's loops. Oops. And we're going to call this one actually category list. Okay, and here we're going to set the category get value, and we have our category list, and we are going to grab a count based on the counter, which we'll have to add that. And let's go ahead and set another variable. This will be the counter. The counter will equal the counter plus 1. Okay, so here we grab that value, and we'll say if not is empty category, we will create a new record. Oh, we won't omit. Oh, I put this all in the omits. I guess I was thinking of these in the context of omitting them, and not in the case of the set field. So what's interesting here is that if we are, and I feel like I just went way off track there with this filter, is thinking of it in the omit context. If the filter is, if the category is, if we have multiple categories, then you could loop through it, and each time you would duplicate all of these find requests at the same time. So we would say we would set the category, and then we would duplicate the find request and set it with the next value. So this would work as long as you only had one category you're filtering by. Does that make sense? I just went way off track with this. So what I'm going to do here is let me go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm going to go back and fix that omit option, and there we go. Because really we want it up here. Would that be correct? We're trying to do a find. If you're doing multiple, it would be better to use a go to related record option to perform that find. Well, let's go ahead and try it up here. So we're setting that category list. We're grabbing the value count from find category. We are, if the category list is greater than 1, then we'll go into that loop. And the loop will set the counter, which will be counter plus counter plus 1. And then we will, let's go ahead and say get value. And here, if there's only one value, it'll grab the first value. And so that's, so if this isn't necessary, then we'll just skip over it. So the if get value, I'm sorry, value count is greater than 1, then we'll continue. So what we're going to do here is duplicate each find request with a new category option and such to create this found set. This is the last time I'm letting you distract me on what I had planned. Okay. We're going to get through this though. Okay, so duplicate, it's a duplicate record or request. And this counter is actually going to need to be set up here to 1 to begin with. So if it's greater than 1, if the value count is greater than 1, we start on number 2. And then we'll say set field category. And we're going to set it with the get value. We have our category list, and we're grabbing the counter value. And then we are exit loop if is empty, get value, category list, counter. We'll put this up next to there. Okay. So shall we cross our fingers and try this out?
My fingers are crossed.
Your fingers are crossed, okay? Mm-hmm. So it worked for 1. Let's see if it works for 2. It works for 2, but what did it omit? Oh, it omitted all of the old ones, all the empty ones. So that worked.
Ruben and now we're also mentioned that counter plus 1 needs to go down in the script, though I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
Counter plus 1. Oh, you're right. So well, it just worked though. No, I think that's the right spot in the script. Because so we have we're setting the counter as 1, but technically the first value is being set up here. So when we set the counter to 2, then we're grabbing that second result, if there is a second one. So I think that's the right spot. Okay, let's try a second. Let's just put in a normal person and see what happens here. So now we've got normal. Let's apply that. So we got 3 people there. And now we've got a few more people. So it appears to be working. Do we have any follow-up questions or comments on that? Sorry for floundering in front of you for so long.
Any comments on that? Questions? Concerns? I have kind of another random question, and then we can get to implementing, I think. Provided there's no questions on this. CJ, I hope this answered your question. There is a question from Labo4 for find on unstored calculations.
So you could do it. So right now I'm not pointing this to any unstored calculations, but you could point the find to any field. So that could work. If you're going to do, one thing I will say though, if you want multiple checkboxes in a find like this, I wouldn't script it. If you're doing one, you could script it. Or I mean, I wouldn't use find mode to script it. I would use the go to related record. And I think Nick Hunter has a demo on how to do that. So some of these filter popover techniques that I'm using are similar to his, but he usually uses a go to related record option, which actually has better performance than entering find mode and performing the find. But if this works for what you're doing, then it's a great solution. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, do we want to go ahead and try this out in a copy of FM Starting Point?
Yes, I got many very enthusiastic interests about that.
Okay. So here's a copy of FM Starting Point, and I've downloaded, this is actually where I generated the data for this. If you aren't aware, FM Starting Point has this great option for creating demo data. Over here under Developer, you can say Generate Mock Data. So what I'm going to do right now is, that I don't have any invoices or estimates. So I want to put a filter on estimates or invoices. I think that'd be a little more interesting than contacts. So I'm going to go ahead and just come here and delete all records. Say delete all. And let's go back over to our Generate Mock Data options. And so you can kind of glance through here. By default, it says it's creating 5,000 accounts. So you might want to change that if you're going to try this out. So I'm going to create 2 staff, 20 products, 10 accounts, 5 accounts per, 5 contacts per account. Let's do 3 nodes. Doesn't need to create quite that many. Projects per contact, I'm going to say 0 to 3. They don't all need projects. Invoices, and I'm going to leave the invoices in there. We'll actually do our what is it called? Filter on the invoices. Let's go ahead and say generate. And it shouldn't take too long. This is all local data, and it's just looping through, creating these records. And when I tested this before, it didn't take super long, maybe a minute or 2. There we go. Mock data generation is complete. Let's go ahead and close this and see what's going on. We've got 0 contacts. Well, that didn't work. I'm going to be a little disappointed if this is really not working. I said it could create 0, so maybe that's my problem. I'm going to, if it still didn't create any contacts, I am going back and saying it has to create 1 at least. 1 per. Okay. So it's saying it should create about 40 contacts. We'll see if this one works this time. If not, I'll just import this data. Because I pulled it right from FM Starting Point, it should import back into FM Starting Point pretty easily. And still not in there. So I'm going to select File, Import, File. and go to my filter options, open this one. It's currently in use. Is this a different version? Let's go File, Import Records. We'll grab that filter demo. Oh, it's not authorized. Okay. Let's go ahead and, so we're just saying matching names. We're not performing the auto enter calculations. We'll say import. So now we've got all of these records back in FM starting point, and we can see that. So now what I'm going to do is the first thing I need to copy out of FM starting point, or out of my filter demo, is that filter table. So I do have a designated table with all of the filter fields that's separate from the contacts table. I'm just going to go into tables and paste that in. It's got 0 records, and there we go. It's in there. Now I'm going to grab the filter folder of scripts and paste that right into my script workspace. So there, that is in there. It looks all, you can just make sure it's all good. And let's go ahead and save that. And now the final piece, I'll just grab this filter popover and we will delete our labels. When was the last time we used labels? We'll put our filter in there. And now we notice the value lists are missing. So let's go ahead and delete this. And so the one thing I forgot to copy was the value list. File, manage, value lists. I'll just grab all of these and say copy, Command C, and then go back over here to FM starting point and go to File, Manage, Value Lists, Command V. So now they're all there, and you'll notice because I used in the demo, it's using the same name from FM starting point, it matches perfectly. So now we can grab that filter popover, copy that, and paste it here. Let's go ahead and move it up. We'll make that a little shorter. And there's our popover. We've got all of our drop-down lists and everything. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Let's try it out. So we have our list. Let's see if it works. There is our list, and we want to hide all of the inactive people. Let's select to hide the inactive people. Great. Let's go ahead and only say we want the hot prospects. All right, and there it filtered again. Let's clear some of these things out. And I want to see two different categories, and let's go ahead and filter out the inactive people. There we go. So we got those two categories and only the active people for that. So real quick copy paste over there to get these this kind of filter in FM starting point. Do we have any questions?
Yes, copy and paste of scripts doesn't do the check that import does.
Doesn't do the check that import does. The file reference, the security option? Is that what we're talking about?
He's
the file
typing.
access?
Missing or mismatched fields, etc.
Oh, so I just happened to know that it was all there. So you could go through and just make sure that everything matches and there's no red spots. There's nothing highlighted red to say that there's a problem. But because I copied all the field names from FM starting point, then I knew it was going to copy over.
Yeah, so basically since it's double cases of FM starting point, Calvin already knew. If I imported it would tell me about the errors, but since it wasn't FMSP, I don't think there would be any errors to begin with, so there'd be nothing to tell you about.
Yeah, I don't know about if I ever get copying and pasting scripts if you get an error message saying something's wrong. There is some highlighting that you get that shows you if something is it'll turn red if it's something's not found. But good question. Any other questions?
Labo 404 is typing, so I'll let him type. Otherwise, I'm looking. Yeah, you can right-click on the title to check error. It's an interesting thing he mentioned. Otherwise, I don't really see a lot of questions.
All right. The check for problems. There we go. I believe this is pretty new. I think this is from FileMaker 19.
Got to say, I have not seen that before, but then again, last time I actually really didn't anything.
Okay, so here I said check for problems and it highlighted the clear because it's not telling it what field to go to. But that's because we're telling it to go to an object first. So that should remain there.
Yeah, cool. Didn't know that.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I guess one thing to note, if I was going to implement this in multiple tables, you would have maybe a filter script for each table that you're doing the filter on. And you'd probably have different global fields for each filter, because usually when you're doing a filter in contacts and you have that, you don't want those filter options to float over to estimates if you have a similar filter option in estimates. If you do want those to carry over, though, you could definitely have them referencing the same field. So wherever you go, your filter options are always, you can just say apply and you can see that data set that you're focusing on. But all right.
But all the global filters could still be in the same filter table? Question mark.
Yes, because they're global, they can be located anywhere. And so I usually use a dedicated globals table for something like that. You can have them in your table that you're working with as well. If you're thinking of if there's a chance that you might have to move to a go-to-related record setup, if your data set's just going to get so big or your finds are going to get really slow, and you think that a go-to-related record will be a better option down the road, then it might make more sense to put those global fields in the current table to begin with, and that way they're already there if you ever need to switch from from your scripting being an enter find mode to go to related record via relationship based on those global entry fields. But yeah, since they're global, they could be anywhere. And since we're using the find.
Yeah, Calvin uses the same globals for different tables? Question mark.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense. You wouldn't want a global accounts table, a global contacts table, a global estimates table. What you could do is say so I called this one filter. So you could say we're find contacts. And so we know now that this is the find in contacts, and we'll duplicate it and say, okay, now this is the estimates. So we're doing a find in estimates for accounts, and something like that, so you would have, and it's some of these things. You can put the field wherever you want, but and it's a matter of preference whether you have it in one place or another. All right. Well, thank you so much for following the filter demo, and we'll get this zipped up in a sample file that you can copy and paste into your own app and try it out yourself.
Yes, I'll try to drop it shortly into Discord. If I don't get into Discord today for whatever reason, then it will be in Discord tomorrow, or the other chats, YouTube and Twitch. So, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for doing this, Calvin.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it. In that case, we're going to run the music. Goodbye.
report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!